Here's how to make rain and snow cards in Blender. So first, let's start out by making some rain. All we have to do first is add in an icosphere, and then we can shade it smooth just to make sure that the shading looks nice. Go into the shader editor, then we'll give it a glass material and plug that into the surface. Now what we're gonna get is something like this. So we wanna turn up the roughness a little bit, and we wanna turn down the color just so we get something a little bit darker, and it'll stand out more against the background. Now, as far as texturing goes, that's it. All we have to do next is add in a plane. We can scale it up and move it upward, and then we're going to apply the scale. Next, what we're going to do is go to the particles tab, add a new particle system, and let's go down to render. Go to render as object, and then we're going to choose our raindrop right here. Now let's move this icosphere off to the side just so we can't see it anymore. And if I press play, here you'll see our raindrops falling. What we're going to do is we're going to take this plane, I'm going to flip it upside down, so RX 180, and I'm going to give this like 15 meters per second. So it's falling about that fast. I might even give it like 25, so that it's falling pretty quickly, and we can move it up a little bit just so it looks more natural. Now next, you can decide how much rain you want coming down. So if I increase this number to like 5,000, we'll have a lot more rain. And next, what I want to do is make sure that this end frame is at 250, or however long the life of the animation is going to be. And what we'll get is our raindrops falling like this. Now, you may want to lower the scale just a little bit so it looks more natural. And if you want your rain to be a little bit more interesting, you can always add in some wind. So if you go to force fields and just add in a little bit of wind, you can set it up so that the wind is going off to the side. Go into the force field properties and turn up the strength of the wind. And if we go look at these, you'll see that the rain's flying off to the side. A little too much, but that is the general idea. So once we have that all set up, there's a few more things we want to do. First one is add in a camera, and we want it to be directly facing the rain and just in front of it a little bit, as you can see by these little rain droplets. Next, we're going to change the perspective to orthographic, just so that there is no depth of field issues. I'm going to scale it out until it fits the entire screen. And then we are going to want to check motion blur. I'm going to choose end on frame, and I'm going to bring the shutter down. And you can go anywhere from 0.3 if you want some smaller streaks to 0.7 or 0.8. I'm going to go 0.7 for longer streaks. I like to render in cycles, and I don't know, I just think it looks better. The final thing you have to make sure you do is go under film and turn on transparent. And that way, when you render, you won't be able to see the background of the rain. You'll just be able to see the rain. So let's go 200 for my samples. I'm going to go 0.02. And finally, let's make sure we have a shader in the world editor. And whenever you're doing rain, you should probably use an overcast day. Brighten it up a little bit just so the rain's a little bit more visible. And I'm going to keep it at something like 3 or 4. 3 looks to be about good. And there we go. As you can see, we can see everything fine. So now, final step is to render your animation. When you're done, you'll get something like this, which we can then import into Blender. So what I can do is add in a mesh plane. And once I find a mesh plane, I can go find my rain cards. So I'm going to go find those, import them. And I forgot, I only need to import one. So I'm going to import a mesh plane, pick one of the rain cards, which gives us this. Then in the object mode, I am going to then grab this texture, delete it out, and make sure I'm going to go grab the rain cards again. The whole purpose of that is just to make sure that I have the right aspect on the rain. And now I have these rain cards. I'll turn it on to cyclic. And then as you can see, we got rain going down like that. If I turn it on to Eevee, we'll be able to see that a little bit better. And one of the things I want to do is make sure that this is plugged through an emission texture. And I'm also going to plug it through a transparent. And then we're going to mix the two together. And we're going to use the alpha as our mix factor on this. And then I just have some simple rain cards that can be duplicated and added anywhere. If they need to be more visible, I can turn up the emission, and I can just move these wherever I need in a scene, scale them up, and make them fit wherever I need them to fit. Now, for a snow card, it's pretty much the exact same thing. All I'm going to do for the snow card is I'm either going to make a snowflake, so I can add in a circle if I want and fill it in and do all this. That looks like a snowflake to me. I can either make my own snowflake or something, or I can just add in a icosphere that is plain white, or I can import an image of a snowflake, make sure it's got an alpha channel, and use that as my snowflakes. So I'm going to use the same exact particle system. I'm going to change my object to the snowflake, and I'm going to make sure that show emitter is not visible. And once I have the snowflakes, I want to change it so that there is no normal velocity. This will make it so that they fall a little bit slower, which is going to make it look more like a snowflake. Next, what we can do is we can go under the physics tab, and if we go down into integration, we can change this time step to something smaller like 0.02 in order to make them fall slower, which is in turn basically going to cause them to look more snowflake-like. I usually like going all the way down to 0.01 and having them fall really slowly but you don't have to go that low if you don't want to. Now with snowflakes, you're going to have to make sure that the lifetime is a lot longer, otherwise they're going to break with the integration. And as you can see, my planes are all flat, so what I'm going to have to do is make sure that I flip this plane so it's facing upward and use object, apply, rotation, and scale. That way when I look at all my snowflakes, they are falling in the correct direction. Now with snowflakes, one thing I might want to do is randomize their velocity just a little bit and randomize their rotation just a little bit. I can also make it dynamic so that they kind of just rotate and fall in random directions, which is a little bit more natural for a snowflake than it is for a raindrop. So in that case, it's fine. Now, the last thing I like to do for the snowflakes is I like to add in a force field and use turbulence. I can then go in the force field settings, turn up the turbulence, and we can go watch these snowflakes kind of go crazy in all directions. Now, as far as rendering goes, it's pretty much the exact same process. The only thing I'd change is turning the motion blur down to something like 0.3, just so you get a little bit of motion blur, but not too much. Then finally, you can just drag and drop snow into any scene that you like, and it'll just work. If you like the tutorial, consider subscribing, and go check out my Patreon for more tutorials. Also, if you like the scene, let me know what I should make next, and I'll see you next time.